So I funny enough, I actually would have made this ring a bit more solid than I did, but that's because I had to just drill through a lot of metal just to make sure that they were there. And the stones had just a lot of metal underneath them already, so I really didn't need to add azures for a ring like this. And all it really did for me was like, it just made it take longer, and just made this the process of stone setting just a lot more tedious than it needed to be. When I created this design in the CAD, I thought I actually had enough room. Turns out I didn't. The stones were actually just a little too close to each other, so I had to just kind of move them in just certain areas to where they would have enough room to sit. But that's another thing I would have changed. I would have added just a little bit more of a give, a lot more space for them, because they actually didn't have as much room as I thought they did. But I made it to where they sat pretty snug where they needed to be. And I just finished setting the diamonds, and now I'm going to be setting the amethyst. Now here I am making plenty of room for the amethyst because they're going to need quite a bit. Mostly because of the shape. They're quite a bit more roundy at the bottom than diamonds. Diamonds are a lot more triangular, more sharp, and colored gemstones in general just are shaped almost like spheres sometimes. So I have to account for that. If you ever wonder why amethysts turn purple, and they don't always start out that way. They actually turn purple from all the iron oxide that develops inside while it's crystallizing. And amethyst is also a type of quartz, and it has way more iron oxide than any other quartz out there. And that's why it stands out with its vibrant purple, violet variations. Some can be lilac, some could be deep purple, but that's the reason why it looks the way it does. If you have an anniversary coming up and it's the 6th year, amethyst is the gemstone that's used for 6-year anniversaries. Center stone I picked for this ring was a moissanite. This one's a 1 carat pear-shaped moissanite. And these are the second hardest gemstones out there compared to a diamond. Moissanites, they typically actually have a higher brilliance than a diamond, which is why they're one of my favorites. Plus, they are very sturdy. Like, it's really close. And they also just hold up really well. They hold up as well as for jewelers to set, as well as soldering. They can handle heat pretty well. But diamonds still win as far as like the sturdiness, but moissanites are just an unbelievably great choice for rings in general. I made one for my mom a couple years ago, and it just looks really great. And probably the best reason why moissanites are my favorite too, and probably other people's as well, is they're actually very affordable. Just a huge difference compared to diamond. The metal I'm setting all these gems in is white gold, but specifically called white gold X1. And I picked it because you don't ever have to rhodium plate it, which is like a finish coating over white gold to make it look more white. And this one does not need it. And plus, it is very brittle, but it is ridiculously strong. So that does make it a little bit harder to set, but I'm used to setting with just harder metal in general, so it's not anything new for me. But it is a little bit more tricky to cast as well. However, once it's set, prongs are not going anywhere. What originally drew me to this metal, this particular white gold alloy, is that it's currently the whitest gold on the market right now. And to me, that's just like a win-win right there, because the silver's really pretty also, but it is a soft metal, believe it or not, compared to other metals out there. White gold is one of the harder metals. It's actually harder than platinum, believe it or not. Platinum's kind of, it's more dense, and it does move a lot easier than white gold does. But for most engagement rings, especially if they're yellow, they usually set just the center stone in white gold because of how sturdy it is. And that was really popular in the 1970s. But now, a lot of engagement rings in this past, decade or so, most of them are usually white gold. So I'm shaving these prongs down a bit more because we don't want them poking out too far. Otherwise, they'll snag on clothing and just won't be very comfortable. And it's also safer for the gem as well. You don't want any risk for the prongs to just like move or anything. So I'm just picking out my tools, and I'm just going to be using them to polish all the tiny little spaces on this ring. And I'm using this green wheel specifically because it removes the scratches pretty good, but it also polishes it at the same time, but not remove too much metal. I use a variety of types of rubber wheels, but the green's my favorite for that reason. And with this ring, I could probably start with it and get a good base going. With this stuff, I lightly brush it with one of my little brushes that have polishing compound in it, and then I use this ball that just gives it that extra nice bright polish to it. It's one of my favorite tools. So the other favorite part about this ring is I also set the amethyst diamonds the opposite of each other on both sides. So on one side, the long section, I'll have the amethyst, and then the short side diamonds, and then I'll just flip it on the left side of the ring. But once I show the center of it towards the end, you'll see what I mean. This ring also has a very romantic look about it, and that's probably one of the reasons why I love how it intersects so well with each other. And on the sides here, I actually formed some of the pieces into a heart. But what I like about it is that it's subtle, but not straight flashing out there. But you can kind of just see how it forms into the amethyst and the diamonds. Now, I really enjoy engagement rings that have a lot more interesting facets to it, such as a little bit of pop of color, for example. So I added amethyst to this ring to give this ring a bit more of a personality. And it also stands out a bit more. And what I did not expect was that it made this ring actually a bit more whimsical as well. It still kept its still like regal yet sophisticated look to it. I really enjoyed creating this ring. It came out so well. I appreciate everybody who watched towards the end, and I'll see everybody on my next project. Goodbye, and thanks for watching. I thought I'd invite everybody over while I'm just working on the first steps of this ring. Probably talk or chat for a bit. So what I'm doing is I'm just cutting the inside of these prongs. And that way, because sometimes the casting can fill some areas, but that's actually sometimes that's what I want, because that way the casting will come out stronger. And then when I'm actually going to be setting the center stone, which will be won't be soon, it'll be in a while, but it'll be after I prepare it. And that way it'll be easier when I heat these prongs up. I'm going to soften them so that I can just bend them outward and back to where I need them to go. And then I'm also going to be filling in some gaps as well. I'm using a really tiny saw blade. You know that saw blades can get like really small, like, let's see, this is like a fifth of a, no, not a fifth, a half of a millimeter, I think. Really tiny. Saw blades can get super tiny. They're necessary for some of the more complex stone setting that jewelers have to do. But yeah, I've been trying to make more of an effort to enjoy the process of just everyday things, and especially with jewelry, since that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to be a professional jeweler in the first place. Because I enjoy the process just so much. Angle it a bit. Let's see. Make sure this gets to where I need it. Be extra careful with this section. So I'm gonna cut all the way towards the bars. And I'm gonna be softening these prongs with a flame, because that makes the molecules in the metal start moving. That actually is what makes them softer. Temporarily, but just enough to where I need it. Almost there, almost there. It's getting there. Okay, okay. So, now, let's see how well this is coming along. So this weekend I got to try some, this new, marmalade cheese. You pair it with, like, sweet things, also such as dark chocolate and tart flavored foods, such as fruit and things like that. So I picked out some freeze-dried raspberries covered in dark chocolate. At first, like, this marmalade cheese, like, pretends to be cheddar cheese, or wants to be, but it's not. And so I paired it with the, oops, darn. Yeah, they easily break sometimes, so we just have to replace it. I need to get a new one. Let's see, I need to pull out one of my small, tiny saw blades right here. And they bundle these little guys up with brass wire. Alright, we got another one. Whoopsie. Oh, goodness. Dropped a tool over there. Yeah. I have to really be careful with some of these, because they can snap sometimes. But basically I have to make sure I have to get it as tight as I can. That way it can have some tension. I'm gonna need some, what was it, some beeswax or something. Then I can keep it lubricated so that it can glide right through. Alright. But yeah, no, the cheese with freeze-dried raspberries and chocolate just, well, not cheese in general, the marmalade goes really well together. It was so smooth that it just, like, paired so nicely. I'll just cut this one too. Let's see. I may not be using this prawn cut, like, to set, most likely, but it'll be there as, like, an accent. Alright. Well, let's cut these two apart. Oops. Alright. Alright. Yeah, the weather's so nice outside. It's like in the 70s. I was outside walking my cat, and I was looking at some of the bushes, and the leaves on the bushes, on the, at least the ones where I live, kind of like, leaves are really hard. They're shiny, but they really look like fake leaves, but I know they're not. I am not sure what they're called, or a specific kind. So I'll cut this a bit, because that'll be kind of hard to move when I need it to. Ah, here we go again. Yeah, sometimes with weird angles like this, the strain can get a bit much. Okay. Alright. I think I almost got it, I think. Let's try this out. There we go. Oops. trying to concentrate here while I make sure the section I would like to cut is gonna go where I need it to. Yes, this was a very interesting piece. I had to do some different techniques when I was creating the 3D model portion of it. So it's kind of it's a new one for me. I had to figure out a new way of sculpting the actual sections of the whole ring, really. Except the parts that I wanted to be just structured and smooth. I almost got it. Almost there. Almost there. Yeah, this work can be kind of time consuming. But then again, most techniques that I do are time consuming. If there's one word for jewelers, it's tedious. But for the most part, I don't really mind tedious work. I quite enjoy it. And one of my favorite techniques is actually using my saw blade. It's got a nice like hem to it, or to me it does. Almost there. Alright, I think yeah, a little bit more. A little bit more. Yeah, when I was walking my cat yesterday, he kind of was stalking this little squirrel, and the squirrel was really freaked out, of course, but he couldn't figure out what my cat was going to do, but he was just looking at it, and he just wanted to watch him. And then the squirrel kind of figured out, like, well, I guess you're not a threat. I'll just hang out on my tree, I guess. So, sometimes some of them, like, my other place I spend time in, there was a squirrel that was really aggressive. Like, I was kind of worried he was going to try and attack my cat, but luckily he didn't. He just wanted to seem all tough, I guess. But I know they're just really, like, aggressive animals. Like, especially in Alaska, they're just extremely aggressive, those squirrels. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. So today we are actually polishing this ring, and we're going to be focusing on the inside right here. I'll be polishing with this tiny little brush. I'll be adding some polishing, what they call polishing compound to it. Basically it's this clay substance that basically, it looks like this. And then I'm going to add a little bit to this brush, and then I'm going to be polishing the inside. I'm going to try to use a bigger brush. I actually have a couple of smaller ones, so you can see it. So rule of thumb is just polish everywhere, even the inside. At least that's how you know it's a good ring. It's not all the way polished. Well, you know, they miss some things. So, I actually might use a smaller brush for this. Why don't we do that? So right now I'm gonna switch this thing out with a smaller brush so that I can reach some areas easier. How about this one? Try it out. Okay. Keep trying to angle it so you can see. Ah, there we go. Now I want to see how well I can polish the inside through here. Oops. Alright, so for now, what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to be removing some of my tool marks. I added quite a bit when I was trying to set these stones and keeping them tight. Alright, so I'm going to be removing my tool marks. I was trying to use up that blue one up, but I usually have better luck with my red. Basically these tiny little rubber knife edge tools that help remove scratches. Alright. So I'm just trying to make my way over and smooth out any scratches and just trying to concentrate for a bit while I work on this. Basically, I'm just trying to remove anything that could show up later when I really shine it up. There we go. Yeah, this process can take a little bit. So what I'm currently right now is I'm actually preparing it to the ring. These are what they call as the shank, to be polished later. Like, it's a pre-polish basically. So I'm just removing scratches and then I can polish it with ease and not have to struggle trying to remove scratches when I can just move it here. Alright, so I'm going to be working on the prongs for a bit. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just smoothing them out. I might actually like trim the backbone a bit and sharpen one of some of my other tools I have here. Real quick. Let's see. Alright. I'm going to use my green rubber wheel. It's been such a long week. Oh, tired. Well, it's been a good week overall. Had a lot of several other projects to do, as well as this one. Alright, so I'm going to polish the prongs a little bit more while I'm doing my main polish with a wheel brush, such as this. It's one of my favorite tools. Basically, you can go right on the inside of the prongs right here. And all these tiny little crevices. Yes, so like as I use it, the polishing compound, it gets dark. But that's just how it is when it's cut into. And then we just run it through our cleaner and then it just cleans it right off. Let's see. So now I'm gonna smooth out the top prongs. And then I'll be able to polish these guys as well. It might look I'm cutting into it, but really I'm just gliding over the small prongs right inside here. So let me see if I can just smooth this part out a bit more. Hoping maybe I can just use my green wheel for it. Because there's quite like a lot of tiny little lines that I want to remove.